Let's be real, guys. Neanderthals get a bad rap. We think of them as primitive and less developed than us humans with our smooth brow bones and tall posture. But the field of hominid development has been telling us for some time now that this is probably pretty far from the truth. And new research tells us that Neanderthals could have been just as sophisticated as humans. So why have we been wrong for so long? A lot of our prejudices about Neanderthals come from our somewhat mistaken interpretation of the fossil record. When the first Neanderthal skeleton was recorded by scientists in the mid-1800s, the conclusion they came to was that it must have been a bow-legged Slavic person whose brow seemed furrowed because he was in a lot of pain. Yeah, that's how they explained the pronounced brow on the skull they found. And nearly every Neanderthal skeleton discovered since then was marked by some gruesome injury or violent cause of death, particularly around the head and neck. A small sample a few years ago originally found that significantly more Neanderthal remains were marked by this kind of violence than the other non-Neanderthal species that were alive at the same time. I don't know, maybe they just played a lot of football? This seeming discrepancy between species led the anthropological and paleontological communities to guess that Neanderthals must have been different from the other hominids. They must have been more prone to violence, which could have been due to hunting large, dangerous game, but some scientists also perpetuated the idea that Neanderthals must have often been in conflict with one another. That theory was tempting because it gives us a logical explanation for why Neanderthals aren't around anymore, and we are. Maybe they just had it harder and couldn't hack it. But this view of Neanderthals as brutish thugs was already building from a shaky place. William King was the first to think that maybe these skeletons were an extinct form of hominid, which was insightful of him, and he gave the species their name. But then he kind of backtracked on that brilliance when he compared our early relative's skull with its protruding brow to the skulls of living humans. This in itself isn't bad practice, but coming to conclusions about a whole group of people because of their skull shape is a pseudoscience called phrenology, and that was popular during King's time and has been used in the past to justify extremely racist and unscientific ideas about the differences between groups of humans. King's opinion was that the Neanderthal skulls were similar to the skulls of living indigenous populations that he already deemed to be lesser. And so he declared that Neanderthals must have been very primitive indeed. This first deliberate misunderstanding about the character of these early upright mammals, rooted in someone's personal bias, has stuck in the public mindset about Neanderthals, perpetuated by the gaps in our data about them, and the popular representations of them in the media. And the fact that we may not have looked at or questioned the first ideas about Neanderthals too hard until recently. But recent work challenges us to unstick those assumptions from our brain and provides the science to back it up. As paleontology advances, we simply have so many more skeletons and artifacts to work with. There's more of the picture to see. And the more we see, the more we realize that our earlier ideas may have just been due to sampling bias. A new study, the largest of its kind to date, has looked at large samples of all kinds of early hominids and come to the conclusion that Neanderthals weren't special. They didn't experience that much more violence than any other early hominid. Life back then was pretty brutal for everyone. And this just adds to the chorus of evidence that's come out recently to combat the negative view of our departed cousins. Thought Neanderthals were just banging rocks together? Experts now believe that Neanderthal tools were just as complex as ours. And in fact, early Neanderthal tools show a sophistication that human tools don't until humans migrated to Neanderthal territory, indicating that they probably shared that tool-making knowledge with us. The world's oldest cave paintings were also just discovered in modern-day Spain. The art dates back 65,000 years, well before any of our human ancestors were hanging out there, meaning it had to be the Neanderthals, painting up a storm before we even arrived. If you've got grunting and pointing Neanderthals in your head, then think again. They could probably talk like us, and most likely even had culture like ours. Recent work has revealed that they buried their dead intentionally and ritually, part of a culture that also may have included decorating themselves with brightly colored paints, feathers, and shell jewelry. And they also used medicinal plants to treat their aches and pains. So this is all sounding pretty sophisticated to me. All in all, this shifting field is helping us learn so much more about our past and our fellow ancestors. And hopefully these insights could give us some clues as to why the Neanderthals went extinct, which is still one of history's biggest mysteries. All of this is also making us examine where a lot of our scientific assumptions come from. It's always good to look critically at why a field has believed what it's believed for so long. And with areas of study where it's just impossible to see all the data, we have to check ourselves and be careful not to fill in the gaps with something just because of an assumption or preconception we've had, especially when the science starts to say otherwise. You know what's also smart and sophisticated? Making your own website with domain.com. Domain.com has all your website needs, including .com and .net domain names and intuitive website builders. These guys are awesome. They're affordable, reliable, and have all the tools you need to build a new website. And if you want to brand yourself online, Domain.com has over 300 domain extensions to fit your needs, from .pizza to .space. The guys at Domain.com love Elements, and to show their love, they're giving you 20% off their already affordable prices. Use coupon code ELEMENTS at Domain.com's checkout for 20% off. When you think domain names, think Domain.com. Make sure to subscribe to Seeker so we can keep working on thinking critically about science and its history together. And fun fact, Neanderthals actually had bigger brains than modern humans. They just may not have packed as much into it. Thanks for watching.